They quit right here, this moment, the miss, the silence after failure. 99% walk away when it hurts like this. They call it bad luck. They call it timing. They call it not meant for me. That's a lie. Failure isn't a stop sign. It's a filter. Pain doesn't mean you're losing. It means you're being tested. Everyone loves a dream. Almost no one loves the work when the dream starts fighting back. You failed. Good. Now pay attention. Did you study the mistake? Did you fix the weakness? Did you show up earlier the next day? Because champions don't avoid failure, they weaponize it. Pressure breaks most people. Pressure sharpens the few. The gap between average and elite isn't talent, it's tolerance for pain. While they rest, you repeat. While they complain, you correct. While they quit, you keep going. That's why only 1% makes it through, not because they're special, because they didn't leave when it hurt. Failure is the filter, not the finish. Most people misunderstand that moment when everything collapses. The missed shot, the rejection, the loss that echoes in your chest. They think failure is the verdict, final, permanent. They think it means you weren't chosen. You weren't good enough. You didn't have it. That belief is exactly why failure exists, not to stop you, to expose you. Failure shows you who you really are when the applause disappears, when there's no camera, no praise, no one clapping for effort, just silence and discomfort. That's where the filtering happens. Not everyone is supposed to go through. Not everyone is built to stay. Failure separates those who want the result from those who are willing to earn it. When you fail, something immediately happens inside you. A voice speaks. For most people, that voice looks for an exit, an excuse, a softer path. It says, slow down, try something easier, protect yourself. That voice is the reason they don't make it. Failure exposes that voice and asks one question. Are you listening to it, or are you about to override it? Talent doesn't get filtered out first. Desire does. Ego does. Comfort does. The people who fail once and disappear were never committed to the process, only the outcome. They wanted the reward without respecting the price. Failure shows them the price and they decide it's too expensive. The ones who stay see failure differently. They don't personalize it. They don't romanticize it either. They study it. They break it down. They look at the weakness it revealed. They accept responsibility without emotion. Failure becomes information, data, a report on where they are not strong enough yet. This is where separation accelerates, because while most people are recovering emotionally, the few are adjusting tactically. While most people are telling stories about why it didn't work, the few are back in the gym, back in the lab, back in the dark, correcting the detail that cost them. Failure strips away illusion. It removes fake confidence. It humbles you fast. And humility is dangerous when paired with obsession. Because now you're not guessing. You're not pretending. You know exactly where you fell short. And if you're disciplined, that knowledge becomes fuel. The filter works because failure hurts. It drains energy. It attacks identity. It makes you question the time you've already invested. Most people don't fail because they can't succeed. They fail because they can't endure the discomfort of not succeeding yet. Failure demands patience in a world addicted to speed. It demands consistency when motivation is gone. It demands repetition without applause. That's why it filters so effectively, not because it's impossible to overcome, but because it's uncomfortable to respect. Every great level is guarded by failure. You don't bypass it. You don't negotiate with it. You go through it. And every time you do, fewer people are still standing next to you. The room gets quieter. The competition thins out. Not because you became fearless, but because you learned that fear isn't a signal to stop. Failure doesn't end careers. Quitting does. Failure doesn't destroy confidence. Avoidance does. Failure doesn't mean you're behind. It means you're still in the process, still being tested, still being asked if you belong in the next room. The moment you understand that failure is a filter, everything changes. You stop asking why it's happening to you. You start asking what it's trying to remove from you. Weak habits, lazy standards, emotional attachment to comfort. It keeps pressuring you until only commitment remains. That's why failure shows up again and again. It's not repetition, it's refinement. Each time it passes you through, something unnecessary gets left behind, something sharper is forced to develop, something more disciplined is demanded, and the path forward narrows until only those who refuse to leave are still moving forward under pressure. Pain reveals who stays Not talent, not talk, not confidence on a good day. Pain, the moment it starts to hurt, is the moment the truth shows up. Before pain, E. If everyone looks committed, everyone sounds disciplined, everyone believes they're built for it. Pain is what removes the mask. Pain arrives when expectations collide with reality, when effort doesn't immediately turn into results, when progress slows down and excuses start feeling logical. Pain doesn't ask for permission, it shows up unannounced and demands a response, and that response defines everything. Most people don't leave because they fail, they leave because the pain lasts longer than they expected. They thought discomfort would be brief, temporary, a small toll on the way to success. They didn't understand that pain is the road. That misunderstanding cost them everything. Pain exposes priorities. When the body is tired and the mind is loud, what you truly value becomes clear. If comfort matters more than growth, you stop. If approval matters more than progress, you slow down. If the image matters more than the work, you disappear when no one is watching. The ones who stay don't enjoy pain. They don't chase it. They respect it. They understand that pain is the signal that they're operating at the edge of their current limits. That edge is where adaptation happens. That edge is where separation begins. Pain forces honesty. You can't fake discipline when you're exhausted. You can't fake hunger when the result is delayed. You can't fake belief when doubt is screaming. Pain removes all performance and leaves only character. This is where most people negotiate. They start adjusting standards instead of raising them. They lower the target so missing doesn't hurt as much. They redefine success to protect their ego. Pain exposes that behavior instantly. The moment you start RT justifying instead of correcting, you've already chosen to leave. Those who stay treat pain like a checkpoint. A question mark asking, are you serious or were you just curious? Pain doesn't care about your potential. It cares about your consistency. It asks if you're willing to repeat the same hard process without guarantees. Pain sharpens focus. When it's real, distractions disappear. The noise fades. Only the work remains. That's why the ones who stay become dangerous. They stop chasing motivation. They stop waiting for confidence. They operate from routine under pressure. Pain also reveals patience, the ability to stay when improvement is invisible, when no one notices the effort, when the only proof of progress is internal. Most people need external validation to survive discomfort. The few who stay don't. They trust the process even when it's quiet. Pain is unfair. It doesn't distribute evenly. Some get more. Some get it earlier. Some get it repeatedly. Complaining about that is another way out. The ones who stay don't ask why them. They ask how to adapt. Every level has its own pain. New responsibilities, higher expectations, smaller margins for error. If pain scares you, you'll sabotage yourself before the next level forces you to grow. Staying means accepting that the pain doesn't stop, it just changes form. Pain also reveals discipline in isolation. When there's no urgency from outside, no pressure from a deadline, no fear of immediate consequences, just a slow burn of effort over time. That's where most people drift away quietly. Those who stay build a relationship with pain. Not emotional, not dramatic, practical. They wake up knowing it will be there and move anyway. They don't ask for relief. They ask for precision. They don't need comfort. They need clarity. Pain doesn't demand perfection. It demands presence. Show up tired, show up sore, show up uncertain. Each time you do, fewer people remain around you. The group thins out, the environment changes, the expectations rise. Pain is the moment when desire turns into commitment or disappears entirely. It keeps applying pressure until a decision is made. Stay or leave, adjust or retreat, endure or escape, and it keeps watching to see who is still there when it hurts again. Repetition under pressure creates separation. Anyone can perform once. Anyone can get lucky on a good day. Anyone can look sharp when conditions are perfect. That's not what creates distance between average and elite. What creates separation is the ability to repeat the same standard when everything is working against you. Pressure exposes habits. When stress rises, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your training. Whatever you've repeated in the dark becomes automatic under heat. That's why repetition matters more than intensity. Intensity fades. Habits stay. Most people wait for pressure to motivate them. They show up hard when the stakes are high and disappear when they're not. That inconsistency kills progress. Pressure doesn't build skill. Repetition does. Pressure only reveals what repetition has already built. Repetition is boring. That's the point. The same drill, the same routine, the same details every day. Most people abandon repetition because it doesn't feed the ego. There's no applause for doing the basics again. There's no excitement in refining something that already works. That boredom is another filter. Under pressure, shortcuts get exposed. If you've been skipping details, pressure will find it. If you've been relying on talent instead of discipline, pressure will strip it away. Repetition under calm conditions is preparation. Repetition under pressure is proof. The few who separate understand that pressure isn't the enemy, it's the test environment. It's the place where all the quiet work gets audited. When the moment arrives, they don't search for answers, they execute what they've already repeated thousands of times. Repetition builds trust in yourself, not confidence from words, but certainty from evidence. You've done it tired, you've done it sore, you've done it distracted. So when pressure shows up, there's no panic. The body already knows what to do. Most people break under pressure because they're trying to think instead of execute. They haven't repeated enough to make the action automatic. Pressure overloads the mind. Only repetition simplifies it. Repetition also builds restraint. Under pressure, emotions spike: anger, fear, urgency. The undisciplined react emotionally. The disciplined respond mechanically. That control comes from repetition. Doing the right thing so many times that emotion can't override it. Separation happens slowly, then suddenly. At first, repetition looks unimpressive. No visible jump, no dramatic change, just small improvements layered over time. Under pressure, those layers compound. The gap appears when others collapse. Most people train for comfort. They practice when conditions are good, music on, energy high, everything aligned. Then they're surprised when pressure breaks them. Repetition under pressure and practicing when it's inconvenient, when you're already tired, when the margin for error is thin. That kind of repetition builds resilience. It teaches you that pressure isn't special, it's familiar. You've been there before, you've operated there before. That familiarity removes fear. Repetition also eliminates dependence on motivation. You don't need to feel ready, you don't need to feel inspired. The work gets done because it's the standard. Under pressure, standards protect you. The separated ones don't look for new tricks when pressure hits. They double down on fundamentals. That's why they look calm when everyone else looks rushed. They aren't improvising, they're repeating. Pressure will always arrive, bigger stages, higher expectations, smaller margins. When it does, everyone is exposed. Some discover they were relying on emotion. Some discover they were relying on talent. Some discover they were relying on excuses. The ones who separate discover they were relying on repetition. Done so often that pressure doesn't create chaos, it creates clarity. And clarity under pressure is what creates distance between those who survive moments and those who own them. Only 1% keep going when it hurts. Not because they don't feel the pain, but because they refuse to let pain make decisions for them. Pain is universal. Quitting is optional. Most people confuse those two. They assume the presence of pain means something is wrong. That assumption removes them from the race early. When it starts hurting, the mind looks for justification. It scans for permission to stop. It magnifies discomfort. It exaggerates risk. It starts comparing effort to reward. This is where the numbers collapse. This is where the 99% exit quietly and tell themselves a story that sounds reasonable enough to sleep at night. The 1% hears the same voice and doesn't negotiate with it. They don't argue emotionally. They don't romanticize suffering. They acknowledge the pain and continue the task. That's the difference. Not strength, not genetics. Decision-making under discomfort. Pain exposes how badly you want it when no one is enforcing the rules, when there's no deadline, no threat, no external pressure, just your own standard versus your own tolerance. Most people need pressure from outside to move. The 1% applies pressure internally. When it hurts, consistency becomes rare. Effort drops, attendance drops, standards slip. That's why the 1% gain ground without speeding up. They're not doing more. They're stopping less. They keep the rhythm while others interrupt theirs. Pain creates urgency to escape. The 1% create urgency to adapt. Instead of asking how to stop the pain, they ask how to function inside it. They adjust mechanics. They refine pacing. They control breathing. They simplify decisions. Pain becomes something to manage, not something to fear. Most people treat pain like an emergency. Every discomfort feels like a signal to halt. That reaction limits growth. The body and mind never adapt because they're never allowed to stay under tension long enough. The 1% stay just past that urge to quit. That's where adaptation happens. When it hurts repeatedly, identity gets challenged. You start questioning if this path is really for you, if you're built for it, if you should change direction. Those questions are normal. Acting on them immediately is what removes most people. The 1% delay reaction. They let time and repetition answer instead of emotion. Pain also reveals discipline without reward. When there's no visible progress, no immediate feedback, no reassurance, just effort disappearing into the process. That's unbearable for most. They need proof quickly. The 1% trust the accumulation they can't see yet. As pain increases, the environment changes. Fewer people around, less noise, less validation. That silence feels uncomfortable. Many mistake silence for failure. The 1% recognize it as focus. They stop performing. They start operating. Pain compresses priorities. It removes unnecessary movement. Wasted energy becomes obvious. Under discomfort, only what matters survives. The 1% use pain to cut excess. Less talk, less distraction. More precision. Most people quit when the work stops feeling exciting, when progress slows, when effort becomes routine. The 1% understand that boredom plus pain is the final gate. If you can move through that without changing standards, very few remain with you. Pain doesn't mean you're close to failure. It often means you're close to separation. That moment when the body wants relief and the mind wants escape is the exact moment the numbers drop. The 1% recognize that timing. They don't speed up dramatically. They don't make noise about toughness. They just don't stop when stopping would feel best. They don't need to feel strong. They need to stay present. Pain keeps asking the same question in different forms. Are you committed to the outcome or the process? Are you attached to comfort or progress? Are you here for relief or responsibility? Each time pain asks, fewer people answer correctly. That's why only 1% are left when it still hurts and the work isn't finished and nothing external is pushing them forward except their own refusal to quit. When quitting would be easiest,